Everybody, how are you? I hope you're having a fabulous day today. I'm Abby Glassenberg, and I'm the co-founder of Craft Industry Alliance. If you're not familiar with what we are the trade association for the crafts industry. So we provide news coverage and education and networking opportunities for craft businesses, craft professionals. And every single Wednesday we go live around this time to talk with one of our members, and it's called our member. One of our members, we get a little look inside their business. It's always a lot of fun. And today we're really excited to be welcoming Rick from WhimzeeStitches. Hi, Rick, how are you?
Hi, good morning, everybody.
So nice to
Very
see you.
wonderful to see you as well. Saw you last in Chicago at H&H.
I know, and here we are. So tell us, Rick, a little bit about WhimzeeStitches. What do you do?
So Whimsy Stitches Designs started 11 years ago, and it basically came out of my love for sewing and quilting and textiles, and I was learning about knitting. And friends of mine had these cute little project bags and different things made out of fabric, and I said, "Oh, how adorable!" And this was probably back in the early 2010s or so, and and I was just like, "Oh, I could make some bags." I made a few bags, and people bought them from me. And then I came up with this design, which has a clear window all the way around the bag. So um, this became like my go-to design at the time, and it's a drawstring, so you can carry it with you and do different things. But that's where it all started, and I started making that bag in various fabrics over the years, and that has swollen into a full-fledged bag making business and yarn dyeing as well. So I do both. I make bags for crochet, knitting, needlepoint as well. Some needlepoint pointers love my bags, especially the larger zippered ones because their frames fit in them. And then yarn, tons of scrumptious, colorful, bright yarn. Sometimes I come up with colors based on where I travel to for a show, a trunk show, or an event, and I'll find an image that I really, really like that represents the place that we're going to, and voila,
That's
you've got yarn.
fantastic. And I love a clear project bag
Yeah,
personally
yeah.
because if my project bag is opaque, I lose track of what's in it and then I never pick it up and work on it. But my favorite ones are the clear ones. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the process of sewing because you're going to be sewing vinyl, I'm guessing, to
Yes.
make these clear bags. Is that complicated? Does it require a special
It is.
needle?
It's not complicated for me because of the process that I, designed for this particular bag. So in reality, I'm really not sewing on directly on the vinyl except for one spot, which is the seam here where the two vinyl pieces come together. Otherwise, this bag is basically sandwiched between fabric layers. The vinyl is. So you're basically sewing
Ah,
fabric, vinyl, fabric, and a walking foot is all I'm using. No special needle, just an extended, elongated stitch length, usually
mhm.
around 4 millimeters,
Okay.
um, for this, and it's great. And a decent thread, no cheap thread.
Yeah, and you mentioned that for the needle pointers, they need the larger size because their frame can fit inside. Have you
Yeah.
have you learned anything else about different crafts and their project bag needs specifically?
I think the biggest one it was the needle pointers. I collaborated with a shop here locally in town, and I did a trunk show with them, and it's 90% needle pointers in that shop.
Okay.
But they had to have yarnies, and they have a small yarn section, and it was great to hear that people like the larger bags, particularly anything that's about this size or larger. Um, and
Hmm.
with a zipper, they love the zipper
Yeah.
because they can put their needlepoint in there with their frame and all their threads, zip it up, and off they're running. Um, you know, Similar to yarn and knitting and crochet, each kind of project has a different length of time and
Yeah.
dedication to it, and just like us, they start lots of different projects as well, not just the latest shawl or the latest this. They definitely collect their wonderful canvases and colorful threads.
Absolutely. And so it's really cool that you've got a lot of different markets. So you're reaching all of these different crafts, and you yourself are multi-craftual. And so when it came time to learn how to dye yarn, I'm imagining that was a process because you had said that you weren't really a knitter at that time. You were sort of learning about
Right.
knitting. So tell us a little bit about the process of becoming an indie yarn dyer.
So when I started this business, I was not dyeing yarn at all, and I swore I would never dye yarn, saying I didn't want to get into that. And over time, ebbs and flows of business, and you realize, you're probably going to sell more yarn than you are bags, and that certainly is the case today. I definitely sell much more yarn than I do bags, but still, the bags it's a calling for me, so that's why it's always a true love. As you can see, there's just a smidge in the fabrics that are still here waiting to be made into wonderful bags. Um, and so learning to dye yarn was kind of a process of asking questions to dyers that I became friends with over the years, doing barber festivals and whatnot, and sitting around gabbing or talking over dinner. And then also online tutorials. YouTube is great. There was, lots of wonderful YouTube tutorials out years ago, and still exist. And you can learn the process. Really not that difficult. You do wind up through trial and error, kind of figuring out what's your style and what you prefer to do and how you prefer to do it. And you kind of you know, you kind of create that process for yourself, and that becomes your personal dyeing style. And it's taken me a few years, but I think I've gotten to the point where I'm very comfortable with what I do, and I get wonderful feedback from everybody how much they enjoy my yarn.
That's wonderful. And so, are you selling just directly to consumers, or are you selling wholesale as well?
I do both. So primarily, I sell direct to consumer through my Etsy shop, and then I do trunk shows where I mail things out to yarn shops, and they'll host a trunk show, or I'll be in person. I'm going to Augusta, Georgia, this tomorrow actually, to Three Crows Fiber, and I'll be doing an in-person trunk show there for 2 days, and then I do wholesale as well.
Okay. And so when you do wholesale, do you have a special shop for that, or are you selling through Fair, or are you just doing
I
directly with different shops?
Right now, I'm just selling directly to shops, so I'm building that kind of e-commerce side of the wholesale. I literally just launched my wholesale program in May at H&H,
Oh, wow,
so kind of
congratulations.
brand new. I dabbled in wholesale here and there over the years for folks that I know or shops that I did trunk shows with, but not like officially launching anything until just last month.
Great, that's great. So tell us a little bit about your H&H experience. What were some of your goals, and what was it like for you to be at the show?
So my biggest goal for H&H was just exposure. And I just wanted to see what the reception was and that kind of a thing. If I had got a couple of orders, great. If I got some contacts, even better. I couldn't have imagined, the reception that I did receive, and it solidified that what I need to focus on, and definitely this bag was a big hit. I was selling those left and right during the event, and as well as to sample it. And it was just overall, it was a great event, a great experience. Definitely will be there again next May.
Okay, that's fantastic. So tell us about what's coming up for you. You said you're going on a little road trip tomorrow to do
Yep,
a trunk show. And what else is coming down the line
so
for you?
couple of trunk shows this summer. Summer usually is a little slower overall, but also hot. I'm in New Orleans. It is very hot here. So I kind of hunker down and sew and start preparing for fall. Fall is definitely going to be picked up, with the bigger shows, more activity, in a very short period of time. So I'll also be preparing for my biggest show a year, which is DFW Fiber Fest, which
Oh,
will be at the end of August this year. So it's kind of, pushing that deadline up to get some stuff done. Uh, and then after that will be a couple of more trunk shows, and then heading to Rhinebeck for the Indie Untangled event.
Yeah, you do a lot of traveling, it sounds like, for these different fiber festivals. And yeah, that's great.
I do, and I love it. I love, seeing familiar faces and seeing what everybody's working on and what they've finished. And, it's great just to reconnect with customers as well as with vendors. It's great to, it's a great time to be able to connect with other vendors as well.
And I'm curious if you had a career prior to working in fiber.
Yes, I am. I technically have an IT background. I have a master's in information systems management, and I grew up in New York, but I've been here in New Orleans 26 years.
Okay.
Um, and the art side of me has knocking, always been knocking all these decades. That I should be in the creative field,
Yeah,
and that certainly was the best choice for me.
that's fantastic. I love it. I love people who switch careers to find what they truly love doing and are really happy and clearly very satisfied with their current life and job. So that makes me very happy. Well,
Yeah,
thank you for being a Craft Industry Alliance member. We're really happy to have you. And
thank you.
please tell us where we can go to get a project bag or some hand-dyed yarn.
You can find me all over the interwebs as WhimzeeStitches, but WhimzeeStitches.com is where you would go to, and it's WHIMZEE Stitches.com.
Got it. Wonderful. This has been great, Rick. Thanks so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you, Abby. I appreciate you.
Thanks to everybody who joined us. See you next week.
All
All
right,
right.
take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.